Okay, hello everybody. This is Meteorologist Amy Metz. I'm trying new streaming stuff here that I've never done before. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that I am sharing about Sally, Hurricane Sally. Category 2 last. The winds were checked here. I'm going to go ahead and update everything because landfall is happening right now in Foley, Alabama. So in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and share on some other sources because I'm not normally sharing from here. So these are all new to me, and probably in about 1 minute into this video, I'll be getting into the grind of the forecast. First, I'll find out how I can share this. Here we go. Because most people are used to getting my posts on Facebook. I'm normally sharing on Weather Woman. So let's see, landfall now in Foley, Alabama. Join the discussion. So I can share this here, and then I'll go onto my page and share that onto my Weather Woman to make sure that that's visible everywhere. That way I can actually get people in this chat section over here and be answering questions. I'll also be on my phone. And before I do this, I'll go ahead and get some music on too. I'm going to be playing music from somebody that I'll open up for in just a moment. Their YouTube. I found him making remixes, and I really liked his work, so I asked him if I could use some of it, and he obliged. So I thought that during this I could go ahead and show people some of his music and see what everybody thinks about it. So I'm not certain if how this appears. Okay, so let's see how this is working. This is all new, so it doesn't actually show, and it doesn't seem to open it. So what I'll do instead is just share the other one that I did. And then I'll jump in here because what we're worried about mostly long term here is going to be flooding. And there are definitely dangerous winds right now. Here, I guess, just to get an idea of what's going on before I go share that. This was earlier today, many hours ago. So strong surges coming in. People were messing around. You know, plenty of people here around to rescue him at this point in the day. It wasn't quite deadly or anything, but now definitely things are taking a turn here, and as expected. So I'm going to share to Weather Woman from my personal page here real quick and open up all the products after that. And so then speaking of YouTube, I'll go to YouTube to the person to show you who I'm going to be playing. Noodle Remix. He has a remix playlist on YouTube. Oh, look, it's hard to find him. So I could have had this ready, but I know Frank Sinatra remix with this will work. I'll be editing this after I'm done because this isn't working, so I'm just going to go ahead and play his stuff. I'll add this to the description later to show who he is exactly, and I'm going to jump right into right now. We had the National Hurricane Center 105 mile per hour with the wind speeds is what's out right now for the latest run, putting this at a category 2. So taking a look at that, I'll just refresh this real quick and make sure that's still relevant, and then loop this on some satellite. So yes, as of 1:30 a.m., so it's been quite a while, things will be downgrading, so we'll dig into what other things we can be using here in order to realize what we can expect here in the coming hours. We have been kind of looking at expecting 100 mile per hour wind gusts as far as what I've been saying, and Of course, a lot of models have agreed with that. Unfortunately, that's that can be damaging. So that will be ending quickly. My last forecast said about 30 to 50 miles inland, and that's what the National Hurricane Center has out as one of their products. So this right here is going to show you tropical storm force wind speed probabilities. So you have a very high probability that we're going to see damaging wind gusts 45 miles an hour and plus. Anything in here closer in to the coastline, we could see a little bit stronger. Some even damages that would be similar to like an EF0 or EF1 tornado. So getting into his music, this is Noodle, Noodl on YouTube. And I'll add his info down in later. So 90 knots and 105 mile per hour winds is the latest here. So what I'll be looking at, the big things are going to be wind shear, temperature, and moisture. So moisture right now, the good news is there's quite a bit of dry air on the west side of the storm. But the storm's moving very slowly. So I'm going to let this loop a few times and even change it a bit. The last 12 hours in an infrared product, now that we've kind of got a general idea for the moisture being central right here. These brighter regions are going to be where there's more torrential downpours. And where it lingers and where it affects longer term, see this is all going to be dragging over very slowly where Florida's already been drenched. So as Sally originated, that was near Tampa, and rains were already going up into this portion of Florida near the Atlantic coast. So they're going to be getting a double dipping here of the moisture and the rain. That's why we're going to be seeing extra flooding. There's even some surge pushing up right along these coastlines here, and that's going to get doubled up with some of these stronger, higher cloud tops where there's more rain. And wind-wise, gusts were coming in 95 mile per hour on this product here. This is a model, so it's not necessarily 100% accurate, but it's very close to what was being shown with the National Hurricane Center and every other detail that I could find. So wind gusts could, yes, be right around 100 miles per hour. That's going to be enough to knock down some tree limbs, do damage to rooftops, break off signs on the roadway. So plenty of damage can be going on here all the way across the coastline of Alabama, even into parts of Mississippi, and as far as Destin. Panama City, even with some of those more rogue wind gusts. But really we're looking at a stretch from Mobile to Pensacola, and Foley with that landfall, the interior Iowa winds. So I do have something open here to dig into the radar. And what we're looking at is a composite. So normally on my phone, I like to share the composite radars for places like here in the Caribbean, where in Hispaniola, where it's very hard to find these kind of products. As you see, there's gaps. And where the black spots are here on the West Coast, we just don't have these systems. These NextRad radar satellites are not there sending out signals to get anything back. So I'm going to loop through this composite. It just puts things together with satellite products as well in order to fill in those gaps. So we can see the landfall here, and this is Foley that it's coming up on right now. And these red bands here, they're the most intense rainfall. So that's training right over where I have a home, where a lot of my friends are, where I was living during my days in college for meteorology. So I'll go ahead, now that we know the general direction has been north, and it's going to be heading with more of a northeastern component pretty soon here, and really slow. So besides the moisture that we know is going to be here, we have the temperatures from the water. It has continued to be warm, which helped it bump back up to Category 2 strength before making landfall. And other than that, we have wind shear that did not play a role in guiding the storm, and it's not going to yet, not for a little while. We have some differences in the temperatures here that also have to do with different wind directions. You can see these little lines are moving a little bit different direction over there, far to the north. So eventually the storm is going to be moving into different directions. But for now, I'm going to play out the model here with the wind gust forecast up here, and play out for the next 24 hours to get an idea of probable storm motion. So this shows plenty of problematic winds well into Thursday. Those are wind gusts, reminding everybody. That will be trailing up the eastern coast. So where I was saying we could be seeing some severe weather, a big factor here is going to be with the air masses that collide. The chance is kind of low for the severe weather in this case. And now that we're getting this far out in the model forecast, I lower the chances of probability here with exactness, of course, naturally, but this is going to be the reason why we'll see a chance for severe weather along the east coast now right ahead of the weekend. So luckily the storm didn't have any extra solar forcing to push on top, so I'm going to enlarge this real quick and play just a little bit of what is my professor's work here. So she studies space weather. She started out in other fields where this kind of transformed into itself as new products and new satellites gain new data. And this kind of will just introduce a reason why we're not seeing a big uptick in the severity of this strength in the storm. Like sometimes we'll see rapid intensification. We didn't see that this time, and this is one of the reasons.
But everything's all clear Earth side. Those stories and more in the news this week.
She's talking about solar storms all over the sun, but none of them are directed toward Earth.
This space weather forecast is sponsored in part by Millersville University. Come get certified in broadcast space weather. Visit millersville.edu.
And so that's where I'm going now. And so I'm kind of playing these little by little just to give people sneak peeks into what I'm using to forecast, what opportunities we have to better forecast in the future, and see what people think about these sorts of things. So please share your thoughts and other information if you have any. And then as I'm looking for questions, see if anybody's live asking anything.
Space weather this week has definitely quieted down compared to last week. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, back on the 5th, we did have a bright region in Earth view that fired off a solar storm that went east of Earth, and that got us a little bit excited, thinking maybe this thing was going to do something. And then, before we even got settled, we had another solar storm fired off to the west of us. This was due to the filament channels that we were watching very eagerly last week. It looks like maybe one of them let go, and it let off a beautiful solar storm in coronagraphs, but that went west of us. So my goodness, we had storms to the east of us, we had storms to the west of us, and we got super excited. Then when we switched back to that bright region, where did it go? It lost, it fizzled on us. So then we kept watching, and another bright region began to form in the finger-like coronal hole that we've also been watching. Unfortunately, that region looks like it's also fizzled. So we're just kind of sitting here in a quiet zone, I guess. Meanwhile, that coronal hole is going to be rotating into the Earth strike zone here in the next probably day.
Well, an Earth strike zone means that if this launches any solar charged particles toward Earth, that can affect our magnetosphere. That then means our weather can be affected. How and to what degree are the things
so we might get a little bit of fast wind from that, but other than that, we've been pretty much sitting at quiet conditions to maybe unsettled conditions, and it looks like the solar flux has also tanked. We actually might be back into the poor range for radio propagation on Earth's day side.
And that ties into how radio communications can be affected and also forecasted for by space weather forecasters like herself and like I'm getting certified in to do right now. So this is all exciting to me. Now as far as the weather goes, I hope everybody's doing okay in Pensacola. I do know a lot of people in that area, and I did this live earlier, so I'll go ahead and turn the
Luckily,
sound down, but I'm going to take a look and see if anyone else had questions from this one, because it was about bedtime when I went and did this for most of my friends in this area where they're going to be affected. And so I think I answered everything they had. So this will probably wrap up what I'm doing here, since I'm kind of new to doing this on YouTube. I'd like to start hosting all my lives on YouTube instead of Facebook and then sharing it here. So thanks for joining me, and feel free to add anything else in the comments if you have questions about anything with how the surge is going to be, the wind speed. So because we're going to be having damaging gusts everywhere within this purple zone through Thursday, and then things will be trailing up off the East Coast with severe weather threats. Fairly minimal, but they are there. So do heed the warnings. Please sleep safely, everybody in this area, everyone affected by Sally. I feel like we're going to be having a Category 1 landfall. And in order to check some of those products, I want to do a little bit of digging around here too and see first before I leave if I can determine just exactly how strong this should be right now, since we are at landfall now. How strong Sally will be, and then the others are not going to be affecting land just yet. So this is the National Hurricane Center. They have tons of new products. I'm going to double click on here and see what they have up for Sally particularly. And so yes, they are calling this life-threatening flash flooding, and that's very accurate. So roadways can wash away during these events. There hasn't been a lot of soaking. The ground isn't totally saturated in this area yet from this season, but it has seen enough rainfall that this slow-moving storm is going to be soaking the ground. And so they're putting it, just like I was saying, I guess through Wednesday, and even Thursday, I would say, for some of the lingering rain, especially closer to it's been a while since I lived there, Apalachicola River, and they're going to be seeing lingering rain over the next couple of days. This is going to continue to cover the roadways along the coast, along the bayous. So do travel on those higher roadways if you have to go anywhere, and check the radar before you go. There's also a lot of live feed cameras you can check in on. So if anyone has questions on that and where to locate them, just ask me in the comments of these videos, YouTube preferred. The life-threatening storm surge is expected along portions of the coastline of Alabama to western Florida Panhandle, including Mobile Bay. So those are the bayous all the way westward, where flooding is going to be more likely and more problematic. Hurricane conditions are expected this morning and then continue into the afternoon with portions of the hurricane warning area along Mississippi and Alabama coastlines and the western Florida Panhandle. So lingering winds will be Panama City, a little bit longer than Alabama. So to expect that as the storm moves northeast to be affecting the Panhandle even longer than it bothers Alabama, even though Alabama is taking the brunt force of the stronger wind speeds here, right at Foley right now. So I'll go ahead and find another product I can zoom in on at that, just because I am curious to see exactly where it is, even if no one else has questions just yet. I know a lot of people in these areas too already have their favorite forecasters they watch, so if they're looking, they're already plugged in. I was interning in Mobile a few years ago, and I got to experience a lot of these storms, and while I was in school, finally got to understand the microphysics and the feelings with these hurricanes and tropical storms. As I was going to school here and living over here, I got to commute, see beautiful sunsets along these bridges, beautiful wildlife in the morning, dawn sunrises, and drive up to school and pass through a lot of storms just like these. I absolutely loved it. And being a meteorologist, or at least in school then, I was able to stay on the safer side of these batches. So I'd like to get into details about how I can teach you, if you are wanting to drive or you're even wanting to see certain things, how to do that safely and always have your 10 outs, like that's what I like to call it. Some checks and balances. So because right now Foley is going to be getting the strongest winds here. Landfall is probably going to be pegged right between right around Orange Beach. As you see, everything's kind of oscillating right now. like we oftentimes see a lot right before a turn. So we've seen a lot of slowing down as it went north, and then there was some push that we could kind of see on the satellite there as a trough well to the northwest is now swinging in, and it will begin to help push the storm to the east pretty soon here. And in the meantime, this eye wall, as far as the radar is concerned, is kind of oscillating all over the place and with a back and forth motion. And Orange Beach, so anywhere between Foley and Pensacola, there will be eye wall strength wind speeds. And so looking at an update on what that means here on these models, so there are different resolutions here, so you'll see different shapes because they're going to be taking in different grid point averages. So they use different boxes to gain these average values. And looking at an abundance of them kind of helps determine the accuracy of that. So right around this area, I'll go ahead and see the weather picker and see what they're all saying. Now this is what we've been seeing on the reports coming in from Mobile. So I think they might be a little stronger. What I've been seeing in the past is that this European model I'm on right now, wind gusts have been a little bit more accurate as far as actual wind speeds. So I'll go and find out what Mobile is putting out now. Maybe Pensacola Airport has some information too on some meteograms. Is one of my favorite ways to look at this stuff. So let's see, I had already recently been looking at Mobile. And gusts finally did go up quite a bit. So last I looked, we were looking at gusts around 50 miles per hour, and now we're seeing gusts closer to 60 and 70 miles per hour. The sustained wind speeds on these barbs show that the strongest was 40 miles per hour, or excuse me, 40 knots per hour. That'll be about 45 miles per hour for sustained winds, and that's Mobile. That's a little bit outside of that strongest area. So Pensacola is another spot that I can look up here. That's not quite the one I want. So this is it. I just love this website. This is a college, Plymouth State, that put this together for their meteorology department, and each college pretty much has one of these websites for students to find the information that those places want. Oopsies, looks like we had a problem. So this is bummer. This is Pensacola, and yep, their station is knocked out. I've been wondering. I did not expect that to already have happened hours ago. It's 0. So this looks like 8 hours ago. 7 hours ago, they lost service at the Pensacola station, which is a little unusual to me considering this wind speed. So they could have seen a crazy gust. I'll get more information on why, but they had already had plenty of rain here. So it was torrential downpours at the time, over 2 inches. Let's see, plus some more. So inches and inches are falling. Don't be surprised to see a foot of rain in these areas. And that's why we're going to be seeing feet of rain. So unfortunately, some of these winds where we were seeing the lower values in Mobile, let's compare them now that we saw that real report on the meteogram. Yes, about 65 miles an hour. So again, the wind gusts here are matching the wind gusts on the meteogram with this model, the European model, my favorite. So unfortunately, Orange Beach, Dauphin Island, Bayou Battery, all the way up into Mobile, you're going to be seeing what I was unfortunately not wanting to see, the 100-mile-an-hour wind speeds, not just gusts. So then as gusts, we can see those in that whole range here that's going to be purple, and even maybe into the pink. Any of these cities in this zone, I would be forewarning 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts and sustained wind speeds of up to 100 miles an hour where this light blue region is. So everybody, I hope you're sleeping safely. I know there's a lot of mobile homes in these areas. Many of them that I know of where I was living here are in some of the lower lying regions. So some places have, I don't know if anyone's evacuated. I know some places have closed. Businesses and schools were closed in preparation for this coastal flooding and along the bayous and bays. And that's important again for tomorrow. So hopefully everybody's sleeping safe and sound. I don't see any questions here, and just a few people on this one right now. So I'm going to go ahead and close off if I don't see any questions on my posts on the Facebook invites here, which may or may not have worked since it's all a little new to me, these methods I'm using, trying to use the software at my house now so I can go live anytime. Okay, so that'll be it. I hope everybody's sleeping okay. Most of my friends are tucked away from what it sounds like. I'll go ahead and go back to some videos though before I sign off. This just cracked me up. This is where I used to live.
Yeah, right, thanks.
And before the storm, but it was safe, yeah.
Woohoo! There you go, right, thanks.
Good old daytime fun right there. I like that. So I hope everybody can find a way to enjoy the weather through the storms. Stay on the safe side, and hopefully nobody's underneath the tree tonight that falls down on an inopportune spot. That's my biggest concern now, that everybody understands the flooding is going to be in these zones right across any of these low-lying regions with flash flooding where people have pools of water all along here, all along the bays. Do be ready for water in your houses. Plenty of people in Fort Walton Beach already have water in their houses. Pensacola, I've seen videos of people with water in their homes. So, up in the hills a little bit, Milton, not necessarily hills, but this is where I bought. My house is a little higher elevation, not going to be seeing those problems. But right along the waterways, yes. Any of these little feed-ins, as the rains continue, we will be seeing the problems there. And one more quick round on the radar before I go out, since flooding is the biggest widespread threat. Yeah, this to me looks like another day of extremely heavy rains for the panhandle of Florida this half. And then even after that, going into Thursday and Friday, continued rains, even kind of moving a little bit more to the east here. So surge floods plus rainfall floods right now and through the day of Wednesday, with prolonged flash flooding and pooling of waters near the waterways through Thursday and through Friday, all the way through these regions. So I hope everybody is well prepared and the cleanup is not too much trouble for anybody. Luckily, this is nothing like what we saw a couple weeks ago with Laura. That was quite a scare, pretty bad news. After that, if anybody does feel like seeing that stuff, I was covering that with a friend of mine, Kyle Cutton, who you can look up also. We did some work together on that, Tornado Tackler and Weather Woman. We produced some footage through the eye wall of that storm. And this one I knew would be more of the flooding threat, and I told him as a chaser I didn't think there was much to see here. The waters can be, well, as I lived here, I saw a lot of roads washing away, dams overflowing. At least we're not at the dam overflowing part right now. But some of these roadways can definitely become impassable. And if somebody doesn't know these roads and how to navigate them through all these bayous and bays, it it could get a little bit more dangerous without even having a big show. Like that with Laura, we were able to provide real-time ground reports on tornado warnings for people that did need to stay behind for different reasons. There's always, people in hospitals. There's service workers. Uh, for different reasons, people choose to stay back. And so we were able to tell people when and where the tornadoes were. And in this case, we're not going to be seeing too many tornadoes. But in that, speaking of, I will go to Weather Underground, an interactive map. I think it's right here. So we can see, are there tornado warnings right now? It wasn't really the biggest problem here with this storm, and if they are, they'll be very short-lived, very close to the ground and over fast. So look at the active storms and get over to away from my part of the world where the weather has been super calm. So I'm over here getting my fix off of all around the world while I'm studying solar effects on these storms, taking a more global approach. So yes, still category 2. They show here probably, I think they're usually using, yes, the last National Hurricane Center data, which is actually quite outdated at this point, but not far from this. It's just, I believe, downgraded a tad. Might end up as a category 1 landfall. And so for severe weather, I think this one will tell me, yes, if there are tornadoes. And look like we did have one on the ground now. There we go. Yeah, so we have a tornado warning. There is one, and right on top of my house is where I own a home. Okay, so I'll zoom in so that I can at least let people know exactly where this should be. And this is the reason why it's nice to have eyes on the ground for some of these. A lot of people are asleep here and also pretty well prepared for these things in this region, but at the same time, accidents happen. So this to me looks like Santa Rosa County, just above Milton, which is where I was talking to somebody earlier, not too far away from Baker. J. This should be about the J area if I remember correctly, unless this is... So I'm going to go ahead and change the view a little and find out exactly where that warning is. There we go. Yes, that would be J. So I'll take up some of these others. Well, maybe it's gone. Wouldn't that be nice? If I back out, is it going to come back? So it's gone. Yeah, that is actually, that was a tornado warning right on top of where I own a home, on top of Jay and Milton. So hopefully everybody is okay in that area. Let me know how things are. I have plenty of videos of horror stories from the tornadoes all around this region. Really, really, really sad footage. Just what F1s and F2s, F3s can do. Can take down complete homes in these areas, leaving just, it was amazing. There were no deaths in these storms that I saw, and I went and helped people clean up. This was just some years ago when I was in college. We had a couple tornadoes here, a tornado here at the same time, the same storm, and the videos I got are wild. Maybe I'll end up sharing them someday in a video, but I always end up messing those screens up. So that's some sad news there. I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. I'm running through all these to make sure I didn't forget anything. Landfall happening right now. Orange Beach, Alabama, affecting as far as Pensacola with the eye wall. So yes, looks like we covered everything. Cat 2 was the last National Hurricane Center update. I believe Cat 1, landfall, might end up being what's logged. If not, it'll be a low-end Category 2 landfall right around Orange Beach, which is just between Foley and Pensacola.